know how you figure it out, but I'm going to show you my strategy, and everybody who applies this strategy ends up getting the answer right. So here's what we do. Biggest integer wins the sign. The biggest integer is just the number. It's not with the negative or positive. So what is the biggest integer? 8.1 or 3.1?
8.1.
So the biggest integer wins the sign. What comes right before the 8.1? Positive or negative?
Negative.
Okay. So this is our problem so far. We have a negative, and that's the biggest integer, so our answer is negative. And then I'm going to circle what comes directly before, whether it's in parentheses, not in parentheses, what comes directly before the integer here. Positive or negative?
Negative.
If these are the same, you add the integers together. So 8.1 and 3.1 equals 11.2, and we already know that the answer is negative because the biggest integer wins the sign. So it's negative 11.2. And then our next step is to add 40 to that. So our problem becomes negative 11.2 plus 40. Now we do the same exact thing. Which is the biggest integer, 11.2 or 40?
40.
So the biggest integer wins the sign. My answer is going to be positive. And then I circle what comes directly before the integer. They're the opposite, so I subtract them. So go ahead and subtract those and see what you get.
Okay, let me get my...
I'm going to continue on so that you can watch the video. So this one we have three integers. So we have positive 9.9, positive 8.3, minus negative 41.3. If you have a negative and a negative together like this, you circle it and it becomes a positive. So now we have a positive 9.9, a positive 8.3, and a positive 41.3. Biggest integer wins the sign, so my answer is positive. And since we have all positive numbers, we just add the whole thing together. And that is your answer. So you would add that together, whatever you get would be your answer. For letter C, we have 8.2 and then negative 1.1. And there is no addition or subtraction signs. So when you have a parentheses next to a parentheses like this, it means multiply. So on your calculator, if you can use your calculator, you're just going to do 8.2 times 1.1, and you get the answer. And then in multiplication, two positives make a positive, two negatives make a positive, and a negative and a positive make a negative. So we have a negative and a positive. Because we're multiplying, we use this. We don't use the technique that I just showed you. That's for adding and subtracting. So my answer is negative, and then whatever 8.2 times 1.1 is. It's going to be negative 9.02. Are you with me so far, honey?
Yeah.
Okay, for D, we're going to do negative 8 times 6.5. Because there's no addition or subtraction and the parentheses are touching like this, that means multiplication. So you're going to do 8 and then times 6.5 on your calculator, and we have a negative and a positive. So our answer is going to be negative.
Wait, how do I do a negative on a calculator?
What, honey?
How do I do a negative on a calculator?
You don't have to. You can just do, you can do it, but you just do 8 times 6.5. So the answer is 52, and then you can put your own negative sign in. I will show you how to do it. On the calculator, you do 8 and then negative. Then you do times 6.5. It's just a positive, and it gives you negative 52. You probably have a button that is like this. So yours will look different than mine. This calculator, Jalen, is from when I was 21 years old. It's 30 years old.
My calculator is like this.
Yours is fancy. Okay, E. So we have 6.045 divided by 7.9. And division, we follow the same rules as this for multiplication and division. So we have a positive and we have a positive. So my answer is going to be positive. And then you would just key into your calculator 6.045 divided by 7.9, and that would be your answer. And it says 2 DECPL on your instructions. This means 2 decimal places. So you're going to write out the answer, and you're going to go to the second decimal place, and you go to its neighbor and you say 5 or more, let it soar, 4 or less, let it rest. So this soars to 0.77. So that means you round to the second decimal place. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. F, we have 7.7 divided by 1.5. We have a positive and a positive, so you're going to key that into your calculator. And then again, you're going to do to the second decimal place. Same thing with G. You're going to key into your calculator 5.6, then the divide sign, then 2.3, and you're going to round it to the second decimal place. And then 1 divided by 4, same thing. You're going to round it to the second decimal place. For this one, we have order of operations, but everything is equivalent. So what that means is that multiplication and division get done at the same time. You remember PEMDAS, right?
Yeah.
So multiplication and division are equal. Even though M is before D, they are the same. So when you only have multiplication and division, you just go left to right. So you're just going to key it in 4 times 22 divided by 2. Or it, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Now this one is order of operations says that we do parentheses first. So you're going to solve inside the parentheses, and it's going to look like this. 5 minus 3 minus 2. So what is 3 minus 2, Jalen?
1.
And then we're going to do 5 minus 1 on the second line. And then what is 5 minus 1? 4. So it's going to be 3 lines. The first line is you write the equation out. The second is you solve within the parentheses. And then for this one, you do the rest of the problem.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right, the next one is a big daddy one. This one is big. All right, so we have 2 sets of parentheses. -1, end parentheses, -7, end the second set of parentheses, squared, -1. So we solve within these outer parentheses first. This one is not really a parentheses. It's not really a parentheses in the same way this is a parentheses. So -1 minus 7 squared is our first thing that we're solving. So biggest integer wins the sign. My answer is negative. Then I circle and circle. These are both the same. So I add the integers together. My answer is -8 squared minus 1. So the first step is to write the equation. The second line you solve within the parentheses. Now the third line you do the exponents, because PEMDAS tells me parentheses first, then exponent. -8 times -8 is what, Jalen?
0, -0.
It's times.
Oh, wait, can you times it?
-8. Remember when the parentheses touch like this? When they're right next to each other without an addition or subtraction sign, they're multiplication. So what is -8 times -8?
-64.
A negative and a negative make a positive when you're multiplying.
So it'll be positive 64.
Yep. And then you write out the rest of the problem. Now we do 64 minus 1 is 63. That's a big one.
Yeah.
All right. Next one is 3 times 4 divided by negative. Is this correct? I can't really see the paper. 3 times 4 divided by -2 minus 5. I can't really see what it says.
Here, let me. It's. Yeah, that's what it says.
Okay. So first we do multiplication. 3 times 4 is 12. And then we write out the rest of the problem. Then we do 12 divided by -2. So what is 12 divided by 2?
6.
And then we have a positive and a negative and we're dividing. So a negative and a positive equal a negative. And then you write out the rest of the problem. And then we do biggest integer wins a sign. What's my biggest integer?
You're frozen right now. Oh, it's 6. -6.
So my answer is negative, and then I circle what comes before my integers. They're both the same, so I add the integers together. The answer is -11.
Yeah, that's starting to make sense.
Okay. And I'm recording this so you can watch it all over if you need to. Okay, let's solve Roman numeral 3a. So if you have -4x equals 3, what is my first step there?
You have to find the biggest integer.
So this is algebra, and we know that because there is an x. So remember, we have two sides of the equation. Our goal in algebra is to get the letters on one side and the numbers on the other side. And the only way to bring this -4 over here is to do the opposite. They're multiplying -4 by x. Do you get that?
Yeah.
Do you get why that's multiplication? When you have a letter next to a number, like this, it means multiplying.
Okay.
So to get this -4 over here, which is our goal, right?
Yeah.
We have to do the opposite. If they're multiplying, what is the opposite of multiplying?
Dividing.
So we divide this side by -4, and anything we do to one side, we do to the other.
Okay.
Then this cancels each other out. X equals -3/4. Does that kind of make sense now?
Yeah.
Okay, I want you to try B. So do exactly what I just did. Baby.
Okay.
Baby?
So first you have to do this. Wait.
So look at what I did. Letters, numbers. They're multiplying, so what do you do?
We're dividing.
Okay?
So to get them on one side, we have to divide 36. We should divide 36 by 6.
Yep. This cancels each other out. What's left on this side is x. And then on this side we have negative 6/36. Now we know something about fractions.
What?
What do we know about fractions?
There. Doctor can't be
So if you yeah, there can be a negative. If you have 6/36, what do we have to do to that?
we have to make it into a number.
We have to simplify it. Remember, it cannot be 6/36. We have to find the lowest. So you divide this by 6 and it becomes 1/6. Do you remember that?
Yeah, kind of. Well, I remember simplifying, but I just forgot that you have to simplify.
Yeah. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
All right. So now you're going to do, I'll just make one up. 5x equals negative 15. So you solve this one, Jalen.
Okay, I got my final answer. I got for the fraction. I got 5/10.
So it's, they're multiplying by 5, so you divide. Anything you do to one side, you do to the other.
Yeah, I got that so far.
Okay, so now we have, so that's negative 15 over 5. How would you simplify that?
I did 5/10.
No, it's 15, not 5. So what's a common number between 15 and 5?
5.
Yeah, so you divide the numerator by 5 and you divide the denominator by 5. So what is 15 divided by 5?
3.
And what's 5 divided by 5?
1.
And then we see that it's negative, so we put the negative in there, so it's negative 3. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I almost did it. I just messed up on the part right there.
All right. Next one. 9x minus 12 equals 5. So they're subtracting 12. What do you have to do? What, honey?
You have to add 12.
Yeah. And what you do to one side, you do to the other. What's left on this side is 9x. And what's left on this side?
5.
5 plus 12.
Oh, 17.
All right. They're multiplying, so what do you do?
Divide.
And anything you do to one side, you do to the other. Then what's left on this side is x, and then the answer is 17/9. This is called an improper fraction, which means we have to turn it into a mixed number. So how do I do that with this number?
First, you have to do 9 divided by 17.
Mm-hmm.
And then that can only go in one time.
Yes.
So put the number 1 as a big number, and then you put 17. You put 8 over 9, and then you have to do 9 times 1, which is 9, and then plus 8.
Okay. So 1 8/9, yeah? Okay. Now I want you to walk me through what's my first step on D.
So since they're subtracting, you have to add.
Yes. Very good.
So, and then what you do to one side, you do to the other, and then that crosses out the 15.
Yes.
And then you have to do 17. You have to do 17 plus 15, right?
Negative 17 plus 15, yes.
And then once you get that straight, and then you have what's remaining on that side is 3x, and then you bring that down, and then once you're there, you turn the 2 to a fraction, which would be 2 over 15.
No, this is the point that we're at right now. 3x equals negative 2. They're multiplying, so how do I get?
You have to divide.
Yes. And what I do to one side, I do to the other, so this cancels each other out. It's negative 2/3. That is a totally perfectly fine answer. Remember, we can have decimals, we can have whole numbers, we can have fractions. They can be positive or negative. Totally 100% okay. All right, the next one is 3/4 x minus 4 equals 7/5. They're subtracting 4, so what do I have to do?
You have to add 4.
And what I do to one side, I do to the other. And then what's left on this side is 3/4 x, and then 4 7/5. Because 4 plus 7/5 equals 4 7/5, right?
Yeah.
All right. Now, to get this away from the x, they are using a fraction. So to clear that, we use the reciprocal and we multiply it. The reciprocal means the numerator becomes the denominator and the denominator becomes the numerator.
Oh, okay.
Whatever we do to one side, we do to the other. And we can't do this, right? We have to make this into an improper fraction.
Yeah.
So 5 times 4 plus 7 is 27 over 5. And then we multiply that by 4/3.
Okay.
Okay, so what is 27 times 4?
Yeah, it's 94.
And then what is 5 times 3?
15.
All right, now we change it back into a mixed number.
So you have to do 15 divided by 94.
Yes.
goes in. Okay. It can go in 6 times, and the remainder is 4.
Yep. So the answer is 6 4/15.
Okay.
All right. The next one is this is a lot to teach in one lesson. It's a lot. I would do this over like 6 weeks, so I don't know what he's thinking teaching this all together.
He taught all of this in a day, but the thing since it was so many, and we have this thing at my school where every like other day you have like a block, and a block period is like when one period takes over 2 periods, so you have it for like an hour and a half. So we had math today for an hour and a half. And even though that seems like a long time, he was teaching us like all these different things and confusing everyone, and then he would just like call on me and like random people to like answer the question, and he would get mad at us if we didn't know it. But he only like gave us one example for like all of them. He taught us like random things.
Yeah, this is like, I don't know, at least 3 weeks worth of stuff, even if it's review. I mean, I would not teach it like this, but okay. He is saying, who cares if you know it? It's okay, just try it. So that's good. But yeah. Okay. So, all right. Next thing is, this is a lot to learn. Okay, I'm not going to teach you this other part. It is just way too much to learn in one. Well, okay, I'll just do it. So they're subtracting 1/5, you add 1/5, and then 2/3 x equals 5/5, right? Now, remember what I told you, if you have a fraction and an x, you use the reciprocal. Anything you do to one side, you do to the other. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So this cancels each other out. What you have on this side is x. And then we do 5 times 3 and then 5 times 2. So what is that?
What? 5 times 2?
What is this?
10.
5/5 times 3/2 is 10.
Oh. No, it's 5.
What is, how do you multiply fractions together?
You have to do like a side.
You have to do what?
You have to like just go sideways.
Yeah. So what is the answer?
It's 15/10.
Yes. And then what do I have to do from there?
And you have to, and then you bring down the remaining x.
Yeah. But we have to do something to this fraction.
So we have to simplify it.
Yes.
Simplify it. It's 5/10.
So don't guess, honey. Do the math. How do we simplify?
First, you have to find a common number between them both.
Yes. And what is that?
10.
No, honey. You're dividing. Can you divide 15 by 10?
Oh, yeah, that can only go in once.
No, 15 does not go into 10. It's this. Can you do this?
Yeah.
No. 10 does not go into 15 evenly. So that is not the... What numbers divide evenly into 15 and 10?
5.
Yes. So what is that?
It's 5 over 5.
Honey, take it one step at a time. 15 divided by 5 is what?
3.
Mm-hmm. And then what?
And divided by 5 is 2.
Uh-huh. So what is the answer?
3 over 2.
Yes. And then what do we have to do to 3 over 2? It is an improper fraction.
We have to turn it into a mixed number.
Yes.
And 2 can only go into 3 one time with the remainder of a 1.
So 1 and 1/2.
And then the answer to that, the mixed number is 3.
No, the answer is 1 and 1/2.
Oh,
Because 3 halves turns into 1 and 1/2. Do you agree with that?
yeah.
Awesome. All right. Now we're going to do, we're going to skip down to problems A, B, C, D, E, and F because those are more similar to the ones that we just did. But the inequality sign is there instead of an equal sign. And remember, we talked about that last time. So we're totally fine. We do the problem the same exact way, but instead of writing an equal sign, we write a greater than or less than or whatever the sign is. But we treat it the same way. So 9x and then negative 20 on the other side. So what do I have to do to get my 9 over on the other side?
Do you have to pick the biggest one?
No, honey. They're multiplying, so what do I do?
Divide.
Yes.
9 can go into 22 times.
So we do this. And then, yes, 9 can go in 2 times, and then what's left over?
2.
What, honey?
2.
I can't hear you.
2.
2, yes. And then what do I do?
And then you have you have to divide 2 by 2.
No, honey, we're making this into a mixed number.
Well, so then we have to see how many times 9 can go into 20.
Yeah?
Then it can go in 2 times. With the remainder of 2.
Yes. And then what do I do? How do you finish off getting a mixed number?
2.
Are you confused?
Yeah.
So if you have 29ths, how would you make this into a mixed number if none of this other stuff existed?
I would divide it.
Yes. And what would you get?
I would get 2.
Yes. And then what's your next step?
And then you have to do 18.
So basically what you're doing is you're finding out how many times 9 goes into 20, which is 2 times. And then the remainder is your numerator. And then you put the denominator on the bottom. Do you remember that now? What?
Yeah.
So if you had 16 over 7, how would you make that into a mixed number?
You have to divide 7 divided by 16, and it can go in 2 times, which is 14, and then the remainder would be 2, and then you keep the denominator the same, so it would be 2 and 2 7.
Yes. Awesome. So this is negative 2 and 2/9. Does that make sense to you now?
Yeah.
Okay, I would like you to work on number B, and then I'm going to make a video about C, and I'll keep going until you tell me you're done with B, okay? So you're doing the bottom part, letter B.
The one that's like 15x.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And then you can mute me until you're done, and then come back on and tell me when you're ready. And in the meantime, I will make videos for the rest of the problems. Okay, they're adding 12, so I subtract 12. What I do to one side, I do to the other. What's left on this side is negative 8x, and then what's left on this side is negative 20. They're multiplying negative 8, so I divide. Anything I do to one side, I do to the other. A negative and a negative make a positive, 28ths. And then I have to simplify this, so my common number that goes into both 20 and 8 is 4. So I divide the numerator and the denominator by 4. Now I'm left with 5/4. I make it into a mixed number. 1 is less than 1 and 1/4. Letter D. Negative 3x plus 12 is more than or equal to 6. They're adding 12, so I subtract 12. Anything I do to one side, I do to the other. This cancels each other out. What's left on this side is negative 3x, and then I have a positive and a negative. Biggest integer wins the sign. My biggest integer is a negative. So I look here, I have a negative and a positive, so I subtract, and my answer is negative 6. Now I have a negative 3x. They're multiplying, and I divide. Anything I do to one side, I do to the other. X is, I have a negative and a negative. That becomes a positive. And then 6 divided by 3 is 2. For E, I have the absolute value of 9x minus 1 equals 16. So we did this last time. This becomes 2 problems. It becomes 9x minus 1 equals 16, and then you do the opposite, which is 9x minus 1 equals negative 16. They're subtracting 1, I add 1. What I do to one side, I do to the other. 9x is what's left on this side, and then 16 plus 1 is 17. They're multiplying 9 by x. I divide both sides by 9. This cancels each other out. X is left on this side, and 17/9 is left on this side. Now I make it into a mixed number. 9 goes into 17 one time. What's left over is 8 over 9. Then I have to do my other problem. They're subtracting 1, I add 1. What I do to one side, I do to the other. This is a negative, this is a positive. My biggest integer wins the sign, so my answer is negative. And because I have a negative and a positive, I'm doing subtracting. What's left on this side is 9x. To get my 9 away from the x, I divide by 9. What I do to one side, I do to the other. And then I simplify this. And my common number is 3. The 9 is gone. So x equals negative 15 divided by 3 is negative 5. And then 9 divided by 3 is 3. Now I make it into a mixed number. Negative 1 and 2/3. Okay, so the answer is 1 and 8/9, or x equals negative 1 and 2/3. It has 2 answers for those type of problems. All right, Jaylin, do you have any questions, honey?
Not really.
You're probably going to need to watch this like 6 or 7 times. So just take the time to do that this week, if you can. And then what did you get for B?
I got 2 and 3/4.
Okay, let me do it. 15x equals 20. What did you get?
I got 2 and 3/4.
Okay, so they're adding 4, so I subtract 4. What I do to one side, I do to the other. Did you do that?
Yeah.
Then what's left on this side is 15x equals 20, right? Did you get that?
Yeah.
Then they're multiplying by 15, so I divide by 15. Anything I do to one side, I do to the other. So it's 20/15.
Uh-huh.
And then we change that to a mixed number. It's 1 and 5/15. And then we have a common number of 5, so we divide the numerator and denominator. So it's 1 and 1/3.
Oh, I don't know how this stuff goes.
Okay. Does it make more sense though? Kind of?
Yeah.
Okay. So the video is 42 minutes. I would watch it every day after school and try to understand it. And yeah, like I said, I don't know why they're doing it that way. Are you in advanced algebra or something?
I don't know. We did like advanced. I had to like try out for it, but they never told me which one I got in. They like, I don't know. They said that they'll tell us soon, but like, I don't know. I'm in like a weird math class.
Okay. So, do you feel like they're going quickly or